Alrighty. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 15 of the 2024 fantasy football season. Over the course of the next hour plus, we're answering any and all fantasy football related questions. Again, all you have to do is type it in the live chat or send it in via super chat. Include your scoring format, whether that is a standard, half PPR, full PPR. The more context you provide, the easier it'll be for me to answer your question, and of course, other members of this community in the live chat to answer said questions. But outside of that, we're answering anything, regarding fantasy football. As we've gotten closer to the slate of games on Sunday and Monday, we've gotten a little bit more information regarding guys like DeAndre Swift. During last night's live stream, we did specifically talk about the potential of pivoting away from DeAndre Swift. It looks like he will be playing in the Monday game against the Minnesota Vikings, which obviously is a good sign for those of you who are in need of him in comparison to the alternative of potentially having to pick up someone like Travis Homer or, having to deal with some other running back within your roster. Either way, hope you guys are doing well on this wonderful Saturday. Let's get into answering questions. I did see while the intro music was going, I was kind of scrolling through some of the questions in the live chat. Someone said that they had made the playoffs in 22 of their 25 leagues. 22 of 25. I don't even play in 25 leagues. That's a full-time job. I'm going to be honest. I've played in a lot of leagues before, and like close to 20, and that is, dude, Tuesday going into Wednesday waiver wire, that's a full-time job in terms of putting in waivers. Unless your teams are unstoppable, I don't even understand how you can get to that point. That is ridiculous. Anyway, let's begin. The first question of the day sent in via Super Chat was from Pokemon, gotta catch them all, who says, in a full PPR, do I flex Waddle or Pollard? Okay, so this is the way that I'm thinking I'd go about this. Conventional wisdom would tell me to play Pollard based on the volume of touches that he's most likely going to inherit based on the weather in Cincinnati versus the Tennessee game, which again, that weather has been dissipating over the course of the last 24 hours. This time yesterday, they said there was about a 50% chance. My most recent weather report update from it, 11% chance of rain coverage in the first quarter, and then that number goes down to 6% in the second, 3% in the third quarter, and pretty much dissipates completely in the fourth quarter. It is expected to be obviously light rain early in the game, but I don't expect it to be something that is going to impact the game so greatly. Now, the other rain games that could potentially play a factor, for example, the Cleveland Browns game, that could be something that we have to, be very careful with. Same thing with Carolina. That could also be a heavy rain game. But, really, if you're starting any Carolina versus Dallas members, really, it's just going to be Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. I guess CeeDee Lamb is the only other guy. Adam Thielen could be implicated for having a tough time if the weather is going to impact that game. But as of right now, between those two options, I'd probably just lean towards Tony Pollard. I want to play Waddle. Again, there's a reason why I have Waddle right here. I really do think that he is going to play well against Houston. He's had some ridiculously high upside performances as of late. I want to play him. My heart tells me to play him, but the stats and the projections that I've put together pretty much lean me still in the direction of Tony Pollard as it currently stands. Pokemon, thank you. All right, BDA Chopper sends in a question, says, hey, Andrew, pick two in a full PPR. All right, here we go. It says Adams, Montgomery, JSN, and Judy. Cool. Look, if the weather in Cleveland tomorrow is going to be nice and just, comfortable, there's not going to be an issue with said weather and heavy rain, I would love to play Judy above all these options. Because again, the absence of Njoku potentially and Cedric Tillman would just promote even more receiving upside for Jerry Judy in this instance. But again, this is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on going into tomorrow's game. Prior to the game beginning, during tomorrow's live stream from 7 to 10 a.m., we will keep an eye on the Cleveland weather. If the weather is going to be at least manageable, we'd be more than happy to start Judy alongside of David Montgomery. In the event in which, again, it is going to be a heavy rain circumstance to where it's unappealing to potentially fire up someone like Judy, then we go Adams and Montgomery. Thank you, BDH. Appreciate it. All right, we had a question that came in from Chris All In. Chris, thank you very much. Chris says, in a full PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex. Okay, what do we have here? David Montgomery, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, Braylon Allen, Kendry Miller, Zay Flowers, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, Jordan Addison. Choose one defense. Okay, cool. So of those available options, we have many of great options here. So the 3 defenses that you've mentioned, Lions, Jets, and the Texans. The Jets are my highest ranked defense of the bunch. I would 100% fire them up unless a defense like Washington or, for example, Baltimore was available to pick up and play instead. Those would be the other 2 alternatives that I would look towards in regards to playing ahead of the Jets. Now, in regards to the rest of your team, Montgomery has to play as RB1. Of the available other running backs, Najee Harris has to be RB2 based on the fact that Breece Hall's ending up playing, so Braylon Allen's a lesser option. Kendry Miller not really going to be a solid play there. ETN very much so, reception heavy dependent. So Najee Harris and Montgomery as your RBs. As for your wide receivers, Justin Jefferson and Cortland Sutton would be the 1-2 combo. And then it's just a matter of whether you want to play Jordan Addison to make sure you encapsulate all the receiving value of the Minnesota Vikings, or you want to roll with Mike Evans. Again, sitting Jordan Addison after last week seems like a cardinal sin. So if I was in your position, I'd probably just roll out with both the Minnesota Vikings and Cortland Sutton at wide receiver and flex. Thank you. All right, Austin M sends in a question. Austin, thank you very much. Nothing attached to it. Let me see if it's in the live chat, Austin. There it is. Austin says, sup, Andrew? Set my lineup, por favor. Okay, no problem. Full PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. We have Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Sincere McCormick, Gus Edwards. Okay, so of those 4 running backs, Breece Hall active, ready to go tomorrow. He would be my starting lineup alongside of Sincere McCormick. Those would be the 2 running backs that I feel most comfortable playing in this circumstance, full PPR. Then we move on to the wide receiver conversation, in which you have Marvin Harrison, Brian Thomas Jr., DJ Moore, Hopkins. Of those 4 available, Brian Thomas Jr. and DJ Moore would be my wide receiver 1 and 2. And if I was going to start one of these potential options within my flex, it would be Marvin Harrison. Also, Freiermuth or Ferguson, I'd play Freiermuth there, especially considering, again, George Pickens is out. It will promote more of a tight end kind of, I guess, the tight end position specifically within the Pittsburgh Steelers offense hasn't been a huge part of it in terms of target opportunity share, but I would assume that in the absence of Pickens, they're going to have to look elsewhere to find production within the passing game in an upcoming negative game script. So I'd assume that there's probably going to be a good chance for Freiermuth to get himself an expanded role of opportunity within the given week, which again would bode well considering how well he has played over the course of the last 2 weeks. Thank you. All right, moving on to a question from Xavier, who sends in a question, says, start 2 between Marvin Harrison, Breece Hall, Adam Thielen, Josh Downs, or Malik Neighbors. Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky. First and foremost, Xavier, if you could do me a favor, let me know what your scoring format is. It doesn't say anything here. Let me see if you typed anything in the live chat. You haven't. Okay. Xavier, do me a favor. Let me know what your scoring format is. Again, if you guys have sent in questions, make sure you include scoring format. All you have to do is put PPR, half, or standard. Those are the 3 words or kind of sections that I need, and I will know full well what exactly we're talking about, just so I can be a little bit more accurate when answering said question. But yeah, if you could do me a favor, Xavier, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Clarence O in the chat says, need some help. Start 2, half PPR, BTJ, Waddle, Flowers. I would play BTJ and Waddle there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Santana Torres sends in a question, says, hoping they rest Bucky for week 16-17. I agree. I truly don't think that they need Bucky Irving in order to win this game against the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that the Buccaneers are a talented enough team as a whole in the absence of Bucky to still be able to pull this out. So yeah, I agree. Even if Bucky plays, he's not going to be an expanded role. He's not going to be the normal Bucky Irving back against the Carolina Panthers where he had 26 rushing attempts, right? That's not going to exist. So even if he plays, he'll be at a limited role, which again, tomorrow morning, I'll have the established rankings as to where I want to kind of value him out in a lesser capacity. Assuming, let's say he plays tomorrow, I think 10 touches max would be the range that I'm thinking he'd probably be at by the end of tomorrow, which again is not a good sign, especially considering if he's not given the most valuable opportunities, specifically near the goal line, it could lead to a pretty unproductive fantasy performance, which for many of us would be unfortunate if we end up starting him. So I'll probably rank him pretty low tomorrow, even if he does go. All right, let's see here. We had a question from Jimbo Fisher, who says, full PPR, Thielen or Jonathan Taylor. Looking for 15 plus points. If you're looking for 15 plus points, if the weather tomorrow in Carolina is not a problem, I would say that Adam Thielen is more likely to be able to accomplish that for you in this circumstance. That's probably, that's the direction that I would go in. If we're looking for 15 points, being able to get 6-7 catches for 60-70 yards, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility for Thielen, considering his most recent usage and, of course, production with the opportunity share that he has been exposed to. So Thielen will probably be the guy. Jonathan Taylor would need a touchdown without a doubt in my mind in order to be able to compete with that number, which again is not out of the realm of possibility, but it certainly is more of a contested point considering Anthony Richardson's rushing opportunity. And of course, the last time Jonathan Taylor scored a touchdown when Anthony Richardson was at quarterback, it was a receiving touchdown. So again, unless something like that is going to be implicated, he's going to need to score a rushing touchdown, and there's a lot of contested, opportunities there near the red zone. So I would lean towards Thielen there. Thank you. All right, let me see if Xavier had sent in a follow-up. Xavier says PPR. Thank you, Xavier. Appreciate it. Okay. So of the available options you have here, Marvin Harrison, Breece Hall, Adam Thielen, Josh Downs, Malik Neighbors. In a full PPR scoring format, if I'm starting 2 of them, I think I end up just rolling with, under the assumption, again, we'll know by tomorrow for sure. Again, the weather could dissipate by the time we get there. I would like to play Thielen alongside of Neighbors there. Now, in the event in which the weather is such a negative impact on the game. At that point, I would play Breece Hall and Neighbors. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question from Kendrick. Kendrick, let's see where's your question. Let's type this in. Kendrick. All right, Kendrick says, I'm in a half PPR. I need to flex 2 out of McConkey, Thielen, Tracy Jr., Ramondre, Ridley, Waddle, and Shakir. Okay. Jeez, bro. Do you have a lot of really good options that unfortunately are going to be sitting on your bench this week? Because this is going to make it pretty tough. I don't want to play Ridley. I don't want to play Tracy. It's really just going to be between those alternative options. I wouldn't play Thielen there. So it's pretty much McConkey, Waddle, Shakir, or Ramondre that would end up being a viable option within this circumstance. Of those 4, we could go about mixing and matching it in many of other ways, but I would play McConkey as the wide receiver. Again, you're filling in 2 flex options. Am I going to play Shakir or Waddle over Ramondre? No, I wouldn't. I'd play McConkey and Ramondre. In a half PPR, that's the way that I'd go about it. I'm considering playing Shakir as that number 3 option, but I can't do it. So for right now, I go Ramondre and McConkey. Thank you, Kendrick. Appreciate it. All right, let's hear. Jennifer sends in a question. Says, in a PPR, Smart or Schultz? I was working on tight end rankings yesterday. Let me pull this up. If I'm not mistaken, I have Smart ahead of Schultz ever so slightly. Let me pull this up. Where is it? Okay. So as it currently stands, I have Stone Smart 3 spots ahead, 4 spots ahead of Dalton Schultz. It's jumped quite a bit there. Look, Dalton Schultz very much so touchdown dependent. In the event in which he's not able to get those touchdowns, even the reception count for him has not been great as late. I mean, let's see here, Dalton Schultz. What are we looking at? Look, there's so much inconsistency within this offense that even Schultz himself can't even, his yardage counts are so weak. 33, 20, 61. I love his most recent game, but I don't think that's a commonality within the overall thing. Honestly, if it's my team, I'm playing Stone Smart there. I'm risking it because I want more upside. And again, the matchup, I believe, against Tampa Bay provides that, Jennifer. As to your next question, also says pick 2 between Reed, Quentin Johnston, Tracy. If it's a full PPR between the bunch, I would play Reed and Tracy. I'd only play Quentin Johnston in the absence of Ladd McConkey. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Ocho, who says, in a half PPR, I need 1 flex between Shakir, Judy, Pacheco, and Irving. Between those available, I probably, if the weather's okay in Cleveland tomorrow, you have to play Judy. In the event in which it's not, at that point, I'd pivot to playing Shakir. Thank you. Sergio Soto sends in a question, says, tight end pick, Andrew. Mark Andrews, Kate Otten, or Stone Smart? I'd play Mark Andrews out of the 3. Thank you. Moving on to Dilla Choke, who says, Pacheco or Adunze in a full PPR? I would rather play Pacheco at that point. Again, Adunze's, 2 touchdowns last week. Fantastic. Love to see it. Unfortunately, he's still the number 3, at times number 4 receiving option of that offense. Especially when we look back against the Minnesota Vikings in Week 12. I mean, in terms of the overall target share of opportunity, again, it was spread out, relatively well across the team. But even Cole Kmet was getting himself a lot of utilization within that game, which again scares me. If there's going to be even more contested opportunities, it does not lead me to believe that Odunze would be coming out of the, the disaster that is that Chicago Bears offense with the most production of the bunch. So I'd probably just lean in the direction of Pacheco and hope that the weather itself implies more potential for rushing opportunity. National Champ Rush sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says, Jacoby Myers or DK Metcalf in the flex? Half PPR. I would rather play Jacoby Myers. Thank you. All right, let's hear. Jiggle Billy sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, sit 1, Lamb, Higgins, or Garrett Wilson. If I'm sitting 1, it's probably Garrett Wilson. Unless the weather in Carolina is a disaster, which I don't expect it to be. But if let's say, for example, tomorrow morning, we keep an eye on it, and it is a disaster, it's downpour very similar to what we saw on Thursday, we would probably pivot away from those receiving options and just go with Higgins and Garrett and not have to worry about it. But in the event in which it's solid, Lamb and Higgins easily are your starts. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Steve in the chat says, Angel, are we trusting Breece over Najee and Sincere tomorrow? I would, yes. I would. Absolutely. Brian Lohman sends in a super chat. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Brian says, in a 12-team PPR, would you start Stone Smart, not Strong Smart, but I think your autocorrect probably cooked you on that one, over Mark Andrews? Nope, I would play Mark Andrews in that circumstance. Also, would you flex Reed, Dell, or Elijah Moore over Tracy, Taylor, White, or Sharps? Nope, I would not play any of those alternatives over what you have there as it currently stands. So keep it as such. Keep Mark Andrews in the lineup, and let's let it ride. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Ocho sends in a follow-up, says in a half PPR, I need 1 wide receiver, 1 flex between Reed, BTJ, Otten, and Tracy. In a half PPR, if I'm going to start two of these players, it ends up being BTJ and Tracy. Thank you. Okay, let's see here. We had a question that came in from I'm a bad person, says, in a half PPR, start 10. Okay. Start 10. Pick one flex between Hawkinson, full PPR since tight end premium, got it. Elijah Moore, no Tillman and Njoku, Devontae Smith, or Sincere McCormick, got it. In a tight end premium league, I'm objectively going to play TJ Hawkinson this week. Thank you. Appreciate it, bad person. All right, missed the starting gun. Sends in a question. Says, am I crazy to start Judy over A.J. Brown? I don't think you're... Okay, look. I would say yes. Objectively, I do believe that you would be crazy to do so. With the weather implicated, if in fact that weather is a disaster, it could very much so hurt the overall upside of the passing attack from Jameis Winston in that offense and then effectively potentially lessen the overall impact of Judy's performance. So again, it's very much so going to be dependent on that. Now, in the event in which you are a clear sky situation, playing Judy over A.J. Brown, I still think is very sketchy to do. If we're going to talk about A.J. Brown getting more opportunities all week long in the media, I've talked about it, guys. The last time that we specifically saw A.J. Brown get himself a lack of opportunity, go to the media and complain, it was in the beginning of the 2023 season. The first 2 games of the season, he did absolutely nothing. Henceforth, after that, he went on a 6-game consecutive streak of 125 yards minimum. And he broke the NFL record for that. Like, they're going to feed him the ball. Do not be afraid of starting A.J. Brown. I would absolutely be playing A.J. Brown. If you want to still play Judy, again, that is on your terms. You are the GM of your team. You are the final decision maker. I'm just here to just give you my suggestion, but I'd consider it, but only if the weather is beautiful and there's sunny skies and no potential impact to lowering his overall upside there. Thank you. CS Derek sends in a question, says Charbonnet or Rachaad White if Kenneth Walker and Bucky Irving don't play. In the event in which both don't play, Charbonnet is still clearing the way the better running back of the two in a full PPR, considering the receiving upside he'll be exposed to over the course of that game. Again, just like he did last week, 7 receptions on 7 targets, it would be a very similar number considering how much Geno Smith has relied upon the check down over the course of this entire season. Thank you. Jose L sends in a question, says PPR start 2 between Zay, Waddle, Thielen. Thanks. Waddle and Thielen are the 2 that I want to play. As long as that Carolina weather is solidified and it's not going to be much of an issue, if it's not going to be much of an issue tomorrow, I'd be more than happy to fire up Thielen alongside of Waddle. Now, again, if we check in on tomorrow's game and it's a little bit of a troubling situation, we could very easily pivot to Zay Flowers and hope that, of course, he's able to score one of the 6 touchdowns that, of course, the Baltimore Ravens will be implied to score against that New York Giants defense. Thank you. Matthew Crawl sends in a question. Says in a half PPR, I need 2 wide receivers and 2 flex between Thielen, DJ Moore, Ridley, Hubbard, Dowdle, Jacoby, and Devontae Smith. Cool. Of those available, Hubbard and Dowdle are your flex without a doubt. DJ Moore is your wide receiver 1. Thielen is your wide receiver 2 in the event that the weather is not going to be a problem. If the weather by tomorrow morning, again, I will establish these things by tomorrow morning. Like when I say if the weather is not a problem, tomorrow morning I will be here live streaming and I will specifically be looking at the weather and I will tell you whether I start these guys outright. I will change the rankings on our live stream in order to, encapsulate what it looks like. So for right now, it'll be DJ and Thielen alongside of Hubbard and Dowdle. In the event in which the weather's a problem, we will pivot to playing DJ and Jacoby as your wide receivers, still with Hubbard and Dowdle at flex. Thank you. All right, we had a question from Young Money who says, I have not forgotten about you, brother. No, I have not forgotten about you, LOL. Said Breece Hall, Reed, or BTJ? In a PPR, I'm not going to play Reed there. It's either BTJ or Breece Hall. As to between the 2 of them, Breece Hall. Am I going to get enough production at Breece Hall against Jacksonville off of injury? In comparison to BTJ, I think the smart decision in terms of just safety is probably to play BTJ just to be safe with the idea of getting yourself in a PPR 6-7 catches, 60-70 yards, you're able to get 13 to 14 plus fantasy points. Do I think Breece Hall is capable of breaking that? I think, yeah, honestly, if Breece Hall is actually fully healthy and there's not going to be any sort of restraints on his usage, then he would be the best play of the bunch. But again, it's very difficult to determine whether that's going to be the case, considering they haven't really given us much of a kind of tip if that's going to be the situation here. So for right now, I just lean towards BTJ just to be safe and not screw you over, because maybe Breece Hall gets a lesser opportunity share and isn't the one that's, getting those receptions or scoring the touchdowns just like 2 weeks ago prior to, him leaving with an injury. Thank you. All right, Cameron Hobbs sends in a question. Says full PPR, Jameis Winston or Bo Nix. If for my quarterback, I'd rather play Bo Nix. Again, Sean Payton off of the bye week is one of the best coaches in the National Football League in terms of win percentage. So I would not be worried about that. They're going to be prepared and ready to go. Says I need to start 2 out of 3. 1 wide receiver, 1 flex. Okay, very well. Jalen Waddle, Josh Downs, Jonnu Smith. Cool. If I was in your position, I would most likely be starting both of my Dolphins. I don't want any seepage out of those available opportunities. I want to just encapsulate the entire receiving core of the Dolphins as of this weekend. So those are the 2 that I'd roll with. Thank you. All right, Christopher sends in a question. Christopher, thank you very much. Let me see if I can find your question in the live chat, my good sir. Christopher says, I just want to say thank you for the help. No problem. Says, send my lineup already. Okay, I sent my lineup already. Hopefully, we have success. We have Najee Harris or Braylon Allen was my one tough decision. But if Brees is going to play, it's set. Yeah, you're good to go. The decision is pretty much made for you. Fire up Najee Harris. Is hoping he, falls into the end zone, as many of running backs have accomplished over the course of the last couple of weeks in regards to, that Eagles run stop defense. Thank you, Christopher. Says, anyone watching Saturday night's main event tonight? I don't even know what you're talking about. What's Saturday night's main event? Thank you again, Christopher. All right, DeAndre Warren sends in a question. Thank you, DeAndre. This is in a PPR. Noah Gray, Calcaterra, Isaiah Likely, or Stone Smart. Out of the group, I would play first and... Okay, this is the order in which I would go about this. Number 1 would be Stone Smart. Number 2 would be Noah Gray. Number 3 would be Isaiah Likely. Number 4 would be Calcaterra. Okay, that's the order in which I would start these tight ends. Thank you. So Stone Smart would be my number 1. Thank you. Moving on to the next question, we had Abide Los Angeles, who says, full PPR, start 2 of 4. Keenan Allen, Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, and Calvin Ridley. Cool. Of those available options, Rashad White would be number 1. And if I'm starting another option here in a full PPR, I'm going Calvin Ridley. No, sorry. You know what? Scratch that. I'm going to go with Keenan Allen. If the weather is going to be a problem in that Cincinnati versus Tennessee game, I won't even mess around with it. I'll just say Keenan Allen and White. Keenan Allen played ridiculously well against Minnesota last time out. I'd hope that he can continue that streak. So Keenan Allen and White. Thank you. Ocho sends in a question. Says, half PPR. Need 1 running back, 1 flex between Pacheco, Tracy, Marvin Harrison, and BTJ. The flex would be BTJ. The running back would be, as of right now, Pacheco in a half PPR. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from Chris. Chris says, D-Hop, Waddle, Sincere, McCormick, pick 2 of 3. As of right now, Waddle and McCormick are my 2 plays. Thank you. Eric Wright sends in a question. Eric says, PPR, start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Cool. Eric says, Gibbs, Hall, Charbonnet, Henry. Okay, so those are your running backs. Okay, the way that I would go about this, I am playing Charbonnet and Henry as my starting RBs, and Gibbs is my flex. Okay, so then we just need 2 running backs and 1 tight end. Now we just need 2 wide receivers and 1 tight end. Your available wide receivers are Waddle, Sutton, Evans. Between those 3, I am playing Sutton and Evans. And then as for your tight end, Ferguson or Ertz, I will play Ertz. So again, top to the bottom, I am playing Charbonnet, Henry, Gibbs, Sutton, Evans, Ertz. Thank you. All right, so let's see here. Where do we have? Okay, Daisy, if you do, sends in a question. Says, new to the live stream, chats. Looking forward to send in my team. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Daisy. Let's see what we have here. Let's find it in the live chat. Okay, it says, thank you for so far this year, Standard League. Darnold or Mayfield. Okay, so between those 2, I would much prefer to play Sam Darnold this weekend. And Cook, McConkey, or Addison. Between those available options, I would play Jordan Addison. So I'm just going to stack both Darnold and Addison in that circumstance. Your next question, Daisy, was, in a half PPR dynasty, I need some help. In a half, okay, so it says 3 flex spots. We have Downs, Cooper, Charbonnet, White, and McCormick. Okay, so of those available options, I would start Charbonnet, Rashad White, and if I'm looking for my final option in a half PPR, I mean, look, I think you could start McCormick pretty comfortably in this circumstance. If it's my team, though, I'm probably going to play Downs alongside of them, as in alongside of Charbonnet and White. Thank you, Daisy. Appreciate it. All right, we took care of that. Good to go. On to the next question. We had one from Kyle Gracie, who says, in a half PPR, pick 2 between BTJ, Ridley, Cooper, and Sincere. In a half PPR, I'd probably end up going BTJ and Sincere just to be safe. That's the direction that I'm leaning towards. With Cooper getting Kincaid and Keon Coleman back, obviously there's more of a target share kind of competition in that circumstance. Ridley, again, I don't know about Ridley. Sometimes he just disappears and it burns us far too often. Ridley's just not been consistent in a half PPR. So I'll just lean towards Sincere and BTJ. Thank you. Twisted Folk sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR, pick a flex and a running back between Sutton, Dowdle, and Brian Robinson Jr. Cool. Of those 2 options, I probably... man... That is not an easy question to answer. If it's my team, I'd probably play both running backs. I'd take Dowdle and Brian Robinson as the preferred plays over Sutton. Thank you. Eric Wright sends in a question. It says, start 3 in a non-PPR. We have Adams, Judy, Jace, and Terry McLaurin. Cool. If I'm looking for pure touchdown and yardage upside, I think the players that encapsulate that the best, as of right now, Terry McLaurin will be 1. Technically, if it's clear skies, Judy would be 2. And then Adams is 3. Now, in the event in which, again, the weather is not going to be pretty in Cleveland, you would just play Terry, Adams, and JSN very comfortably because, again, both all these options are fantastic top 20 wide receivers. But again, there is still a preference as to the top 3 depending on the weather conditions that Judy will be facing. Thank you. Rick Moore sends in a question. Thank you, Rick. Says in a 14-team half PPR, need 2 flex. We have Sincere McCormick, Romeo Doubs, Vidal, McMillan, and Otten. Cool. Of those available options, my 2 suggestions would be Sincere McCormick 1 and Romeo Doubs 2. I don't feel very comfortable starting Jalen McMillan. Again, he did score touchdowns last week. I don't know how common of a experience that is going to be, especially considering Mike Evans is still on this team. Cade Otton, again, he will get himself exposure to opportunity, but not enough in comparison to where he was earlier this season. And Kamani Vidal would truly need a touchdown. And again, considering how much of a goal line machine Gus Edwards has been in his career, I wouldn't expect them to default in the direction of Vidal. So Sincere and Dobbs are my suggestions. Thank you. Missed the starting gun sends in a follow-up. Says pick 2, Mooney, BTJ, Neighbors in a half PPR. Of those available, the 2 highest ranked players I have is BTJ and Neighbors. Thank you. Then we move on to a question that comes in from Luis Perez. Luis, thank you very much. Says in a PPR, my quarterbacks are Murray, Nix, and Goff. Cool. Between those 3 options, I'd go Goff, Murray, Nix in that order. So Goff would be my primary number 1. As for your 1 wide receiver, 1 flex question, you have Neighbors, White, and BTJ. Of those 3, I'd play White and BTJ. Thank you. Prankster's Nightmare sends in a question. Says, had a man in my league drop his whole team, Puka, Connor, Hurts. What do you think the league manager should do to make it right? I think it's very simple. Okay, so in the event in which this was to occur in one of my leagues, which it never would, but let's say, for example, if it was to, if I was the commissioner of this league, very easily, you go to the commissioner settings, you go to manage, okay, so depending on whether you're on a sleeper or on Yahoo Fantasy or something like ESPN, you have the ability as a commissioner to go and change the ownership of teams. So if I was the commissioner, I would go and I would take the ownership of that roster and I would remove it from whoever that was. I would eliminate them and I would put it to my secondary email. I would put it to a secondary email. Then I would go as the commissioner, which you're allowed to do. You can go take players off of any roster that you want and put it on any roster you want. So I would go and I would take all those players that were dropped because, again, you know what players were on his roster prior to the drop because they're all in the league history in terms of XYZ team dropped this player, XYZ dropped this player. You know his entire format. You go pick up all those players, shove it back on that team, and you leave it there. Good to go. As easy as that. Now, if your league mates are not, responsible enough to ignore the fact that those players are available on the waiver wire, again, hopefully there's an understanding that no one should be picking them up because it's, not available. But the way that usually I run it in my own leagues, just to make sure, anytime a team is mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they are locked. What I mean by locked is they can't make any roster changes. They can't pick up any players. They can't drop any players. They can only change their starting lineup. So whatever they have on roster is what they have, and it never moves. But yeah, that's the way that you have to change it and fix it. So yeah. If that is not the way that you guys go about it, then best of luck. But that should be the way that you go about it. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We had a question sent in from DeAndre Warren as a follow-up. It says PPR flex Elijah Moore, Bigsby, McCormick, or Watson. Of those available, again, if the weather in Cleveland is going to be solid, I think Elijah Moore would have himself a solid week, considering, again, there's going to be a potential absence of Cedric Tillman and Njoku. But in the event in which the weather is a problem, we would just play McCormick there, pretty comfortably, to be honest. Thank you. Alfredo sends in a question. Alfredo, thank you very much. Let's see if I can find your question in the chat. Nothing attached. Okay, Alfredo says in a full PPR, 1 tight end. Kincaid or Smart? I'd rather play Smart. Thank you. Good Spanish, bro? Listen, I took Spanish in high school, okay? Now, when people send por favor in the chat, listen, I can roll my R's, okay? I'm bilingual. I can't speak Spanish, but I'm definitely bilingual. But yeah, we're working on it, brother. Thank you. Hector Hernandez sends in a question, says, 2 questions in the chat. Let's see here, Hector. Hector's first question says also, okay, that's the second question. Okay, first question says, hey, Andrew, thank you for all the advice. Because of it, I'm in the playoffs. No problem. Glad to help. Let's hopefully, listen, job's not finished. Let's hopefully we can win this week and just continue slowly but surely chipping away and getting that championship. Says, I need help in a 10-team half PPR. At quarterback, who would you play between Mayfield, Herbert, and Nix? Between those three, I would play Mayfield very comfortably. Again, Herbert could be the next best option considering, again, he's been cleared from the injury list and it looks like Ladd McConkey is going to play. I think that definitely does elevate Herbert ahead of Nix as of right now, but I would still prefer to play Mayfield in that circumstance. As for your next question, it says also McCormick or Chubb. I would much rather play McCormick. And then it also said Judy and or pick up McLeod. Yeah, I'm gonna play Judy regardless. If it's between him or McLeod, I would just play Judy blindly. Thank you. Logan sends in a question. Logan says, in a full PPR, bench one between Kamara, Chuba Hubbard, Connor, and Charbonnet. Kamara gets the bench. I'm relatively sure that is what I'm going to go in the direction of. Let me look at Kamara's ranking in a full PPR. Yeah, I would bench Kamara, legitimately. I think Chuba Hubbard, Connor, and Charbonnet are all guaranteed touchdowns. Like, it's almost to an extent to where I'm going to go to Underdog right now, and I'm just going to double down on it, and I'm going to put them all for rushing touchdowns, and let's see how it goes. Let's go James. I'm just going to do this really quickly. All right, James Conner. Anytime is at 0.89. Okay, that's not bad. Chuba Hubbard, what is he at? Chuba, he's at a 0.89. Okay, that's not bad. And then Charbonnet, he's at a 0.94. Okay, that's a 4.4x. Okay, let's put 10 bucks on it. Let's see how this goes. Can I type? Oh, my lumber lock's off. That's why. All right, let's just put that in real quick. Okay, done. All right, but yeah, those would be the three that I'd prefer. Thank you. Hank Hennig sends in a question. Thank you, Hank. Says, I have a bye this week in the playoffs. Would you play Reichard or Butker rest of season? It depends on weather situation. Like, Reichard plays indoors, but the upcoming schedule is very much so dependent on how I'd go about this. Let me see here. NFL week 16. Let's see. Okay, so as it currently stands, I prefer to play Butker because of the way the offense of the Chiefs has functioned. Going into week 16, the Chiefs are at home against the Texans. Let's hope that the weather's not going to be an issue there. But obviously, Butker is very much so comfortable with weather concerns of Kansas City, considering he's played there his entire career. And then the Vikings would be at Seattle. That's also outdoors. So really, there's no difference between the two. I would lean towards Butker in that scenario. And then the week following against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh could be a concern. And then we have Minnesota Vikings at home versus Green Bay in week 17. Ultimately, if the weather is not a problem, I'd like to have Harrison Butker. Otherwise, as it currently stands, between the two of them, it might just be safer to have Reichard, considering he's going to at least have one indoor home game. Assuming, again, that, we don't know what that Pittsburgh weather is going to look like come week 17 for Harrison Butker. But for right now, again, those are my thoughts on it currently. Thank you. Bo sends in a question. Thank you, Bo. Says Nix, Love, or Winston. Between those three options, I would play Jordan Love. And then it says also rank JT, Charbonnet, Dowdle. I'd go Charbonnet number 1, Dowdle 2, JT 3. Thank you. Pierre sends in a question. Pierre says, I need 2 running backs. Achane, Robinson, Charbonnet, Dowdle. Cool. Got a lot of fantastic options here. Can you just clarify who is Robinson? Is that Brian or is that Bijan? Because usually if it's Brian, people put BRJ for like Brian Robinson Jr. If it's Bijan Robinson, that'd be good to know, because otherwise I think the answer will be like auto set for you at this point. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Scrolling back up, Sean in the chat. Sean EG says, start Cook over Higgins at the flex. I would probably rather play Higgins there. AJ Reddy says, PPR, start Tua or Murray. I'd rather play Tua. BTJ, Thielen, or Devontae, pick 2. I play BTJ and Thielen. Thank you. Let's see here. Someone in the chat said Pacheco or Thielen. Depends on scoring format. If we're talking about like a full PPR, it's got to be Thielen. If it's a half PPR, depending on how the weather looks in those two games, it could end up being Pacheco if they're both going to be heavy rain circumstances. Kanch in the chat says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, Kate Otten, Jake Ferguson, Stone Smart, or Freiermuth. Of the group, I'd play Freiermuth there. Thank you. Daryl Zhang says, hey, Andrew, I need to choose 4 in a half PPR. Mooney, Quentin Johnston, Swift, Ladd McConkey, ETN, Pittman, Warren, Sean Tucker. Of those available, I'm going with Ladd McConkey. I'm going with Mooney. I'm going with ETN and Warren. Thank you. Chris Whitty in the chat says, I need a big game for my defense because I'm going up against a team, the best team in the league, Arizona or Kansas City. Ooh, it depends. If the weather in Kansas City tomorrow is a disaster, at that point, I'd be more than happy to play them. Because again, a terrible weather situation could lead to more mistakes from Jameis Winston. In the event in which it's a solid weather game, I'll just default back to the Arizona Cardinals. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Pierre, did you end up typing? Yes, Pierre says Brian Robinson. Got it, no problem. Okay, so of those available, if I'm playing only 2 running backs, it is Achane and Charbonnet. Those are the 2 that I would play. Now, if it's that also depends on scoring format as well, but Achane and Charbonnet will be the 1-2 combo in a full PPR, half PPR. In a standard scoring league where you get 0 points per reception, only at that point would I be willing to play Charbonnet alongside of someone like Brian Robinson. Thank you. Alrighty, we took care of that. We scroll down to AJ Reddy. We took care of your question, correct? Let me see if you had any other questions in the chat, AJ. So you had asked about Tua Murray and then BTJ Thielen. Okay, yeah, we're good to go there. Thank you, AJ. I appreciate it. All right, we had a question that came in from Ryan. Ryan says, hey, my league's playoffs are 2 weeks per match. Okay, I hate that, by the way. I think that's only ESPN who does that. I hate that format, guys. It is the worst. Now, again, it does save you from weeks like this week where Cooper Kupp has a complete 0-point performance, but I hate that. You know why I hate it? Mainly is because Championship Sunday is week 18 in those kind of formats. Hopefully in your league, it's not going to be week 18 Championship Sunday, because if that's going to be the case, best of luck. You might get screwed just because players aren't playing. But anyway, we'll see. All right, says I'm in half PPR. Am I crazy for wanting to start Waddle in the flex over JT or Devontae? I don't think you're crazy for wanting to do that. I want to do that, but can I? Ultimately, I don't think I would be able to stomach making that move in a half PPR. If it was my team between those 3 options and a half PPR, I'd probably end up playing JT there. But I don't blame you for wanting to play Waddle. I think the matchup against Houston, the most recent production from Waddle and the exposure opportunity that he's been given justifies the potential, which he could very easily outscore these alternative options you have. Thank you. Bo sends in a question, says JT or Addison in the flex. I'd rather just play Addison there, especially if it's a full PPR. Again, I've slowly moved up Addison to a point to where, I'm all in at this point. After what he did most recently against Chicago back in week 12, as to what he's done most recently this most recent week, I have nothing else but to start him. I kind of have to at this point. Country says, I live 15 minutes away from Panther Stadium, and we're not supposed to have any rain. Heard this earlier, but only like 15% chance. I mean, based on the weather report that I currently am looking at, it says there's a 40% chance of rain every quarter of the game. Kickoff, start of quarter 2, start of quarter 3, start of quarter 4. It goes to 39, 39, 40, 40. Now again, if it says 82% cloud coverage, 82% humidity, it says 39% chance of coverage of rain. So again, if the 39% does not encapsulate the stadium, that would be beautiful. We'd love to see that because we want to play Lamb and Thielen with no hesitation. Fingers crossed. But again, as of right now, country, if you can, show up tomorrow morning at 7 to 10 a.m. and keep me updated if you live that close to the stadium. Thank you. You can be our correspondent down near the stadium to get that confirmed. All right, let's see here. Nathan Smith sends in a question. Thank you, Nathan. Says, in a full PPR, play 1 between James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco, and Rachaad White. If Bucky sits, even if Bucky Irving plays, I play Rachaad White over the bunch. Thank you. So Rachaad White is my answer. All right, let's see here. Alrighty, we took care of that. Frosty says, Cup owner here as well. LOL, absolutely ruining me. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Brian, what's up? Says, I'm in a small league. I do 2-week semi-final and 1-week final. Okay, that's way better. Okay. In that case, you're good to go. In a 1-week final is necessary because if you push into week 18, it becomes a disaster. Again, I will be here for week 18. For those of you who are here right now and you're like, hey, Andrew, do you do week 18 content? Yes, I will live stream every single day throughout week 18. Will I be posting daily videos? Probably not. But I certainly will be live streaming. I'll have updated rankings. We'll have you guys prepared in order to try to still win a championship, even though a week 18 championship, in my opinion, has an asterisk next to it. It is still a championship nonetheless. All right, let's see here. We move on to Infusion, who sends in a question. Infusion says, in a 10-team full PPR, 2-flex league, we play Garendo at running back. Okay, very well. So again, you got about 11 points there, which is solid. Pick 1 for my second running back, Sincere McCormick, Tank Bigsby, ETN. Between those 3 options, I would play McCormick. As for your next question, so for my flex, I have T. Higgins, Darnell Mooney, but I also have Tank Dell on the bench. Yeah, I would leave Tank Dell on the bench. Keep it as T. Higgins and Mooney. Thank you. Rick Moore sends in a question, says, hi, Andrew. In a 12-team full PPR, I need 2 flex options. I can play it safe with Reed, Sincere McCormick, Nick Westbrook. Okay. So, the play it safe approach would be Sincere McCormick and Jalen Warren as your two starting flex options, which honestly, if it's my team, that's the direction that I would go in as well. So that's my primary, that's my primary concern with Reed and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is lack of opportunity, which again, if it exists in comparison to the alternative running backs you have, it could end up burning you. So I would just play McCormick and Warren there. As for your next question, need a defense, Eagles or Jets? I'd prefer to play the Jets defense this week. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Deceptance sends in a question. Says that I need a full PPR, need two between Najee, Waddle, Mooney, Downs. I would play Waddle and I would play Downs in a full PPR. Thank you. Country sends in a follow-up, says Lamar or Goff in a 6-point per passing touchdown league. Lamar against the Giants, shouldn't have to do much, and Goff against the Bills. Okay, so here's the thing. If you have Lamar Jackson, I have a hard time ever sitting him. If it was in my league, I am playing Lamar Jackson regardless of the matchup against the Giants. Again, I mentioned this earlier in the week in the quarterback and tight end rankings video. Earlier this year, the greatest spread difference between any Baltimore Ravens game between two teams was Baltimore -9 favorites against the Denver Broncos earlier this season. In that game, they won 41-10. Lamar Jackson did not play he played majority of the game. He only missed, I'd say 11%. He played 89% of the offensive snaps. So missed about half of these, the fourth quarter there. He still put up 23.6 fantasy points. Even in the event in which, again, they're going to be blowing out the Giants. In order for them to do so, it would imply that Lamar Jackson is scoring multiple touchdowns. So again, he would be racking up all these stats over the course of the day in doing so. If it's my team, I probably still roll with Lamar there. If you're concerned about it, again, you can go you can go with the alternative option of Goff. I wouldn't be able to suggest it because I wouldn't do it myself. Thank you. Rambler Man says Metcalf or Stevenson in a half PPR. I'd rather have Stevenson there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. What else do we have here? Sean EG says, how bad is the weather in Tennessee? Honestly, I don't think it's going to be that bad by tomorrow. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the live stream, the weather report the weather seems to be dissipating in terms of the percentage coverage that we're going to see on Sunday. So the chances are by the time we get to kickoff tomorrow morning in Tennessee, it'll probably be little to no rain. That's what I'm guessing. Now, again, that is based on the trends that I have seen, via the weather reports that, have been made public. Alec in the chat says, I'm in a half PPR Superflex league. I'm a cup owner. Najee Harris or Darnell Mooney. Between the two of them, in a half PPR, geez, that one's tough. Because if you have cup, we want ultimate upside. And in this case, I think Darnell Mooney maybe presents that. Like maybe he goes for a deep ball and catches a touchdown. And ends up getting an extra 13-point influx there off of a singular play. Geno or Drake May. Yeah, I think if I was in your position, I'd play Geno and Darnell Mooney there because of the cup performance. We're just trying to really go for it. Try to go for as much upside as possible there. Jacob in the chat says, I need 2 running backs and 2 flex. Pick out of these options. Jacob, where is your follow-up question, brother? There's just, I don't even know where it is. All right, let's see here. Let me scroll down. It says, hello again, sir. I have to start one of Judy or Malik Neighbors. I play Judy there blindly. I'd have to start Judy, but Rain scares me. After Jawan Jennings. Yep, understood that. Also start one between Jonnu Smith and TJ Hawkinson. That's a good question. TJ Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith. I think in a full PPR, I could justify playing Hawkinson, but as of right now, I'm still going to lean towards Jonnu there. So I go Jonnu Smith, and as for Malik Neighbors and Judy, again, if the weather is not looking great tomorrow morning, by the time we're sitting around like 9:30 a.m. or even maybe 5 minutes before kickoff, at that point, you can just play Neighbors. Otherwise, again, if the weather is at all, manageable, I'm firing up Judy there. I have him significantly higher ranked than Malik Neighbors. Thank you. All right, we move on. Neil P says, Bengals, Falcons, or Cowboys defense. As for this week, I currently have it ranked in the following order. I have Falcons 1, Bengals 2, Cowboys 3. Thank you. All right, we took care of that. Avery Strauss sends in a question. Thank you, Avery. Says, full PPR, Metcalf or Mooney? I'd still play Metcalf there. Thank you. Let's see here. Christian Fernandez says in a full PPR start 2. Tight end and a flex. Ertz, Otten, Westbrook, Ikhine, Dobbs. Cool. Of those available, Ertz and Dobbs are my starters. Thank you. Jacob says 12-team PPR. I need to pick my 2 running backs and flex spots. We have Jacobs, Montgomery, Taylor, Brian Robinson Jr. We have Downs, A.J. Brown, Higgins. Cool. So of those available options, Jacobs, A.J. Brown, And who is your last running back? Yeah, I would go Jacobs, Montgomery, and A.J. Brown. Those are the three that I would play. Thank you. Cody in the chat says Rico or Jonathan Taylor in a PPR. I would play Rico Dowdle there. Rexton says Vikings or Cardinals defense this week. Let me see who I've ranked higher. I currently have the Cardinals higher than the Vikings. Thank you. Isaiah says, should I start Jaden Reed? Not unless you want 0 points, brother. I mean, you could. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke, by the way. Okay. You could start Jaden Reed, but again, there are many of options that I prefer ahead of him. So it just depends on what your alternative options are on roster. Brian A in the chat says Metcalf, Devontae Smith, or Amari Cooper. I'd still play Metcalf there. Cash Kid Cardi says Tua or Hurts at a 6-point per passing touchdown league. I think regardless of I would still play Jalen Hurts there as of right now. Again, I've mentioned this in the past and I'll continue to harp on it. There are some quarterbacks that you have to blindly play. Those quarterbacks specifically being, as of right now in this current season, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, all have to blindly be played. Now, based on the most recent production of guys like Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Sam Darnold, they can also be in that second tier of blind plays. But ultimately, those top three guys, Lamar, Jalen, and Josh, all have to just be blindly played. They have too much potential for upside to lean away from them. All right, let's see here. Landon Day sends in a question. Says, half PPR. Can you rank the best plays of this week from best to worst between Breece Hall, Pacheco, Stevenson, Downs, and Elijah Moore? Okay, in a half PPR, if I was going to rank them in the following order, I would go with Breece 1, Stevenson 2. In a half PPR, I'd probably go Pacheco 3, Downs 4, Elijah Moore 5. Thank you. All right, Big Ham 100 says Winston, May, or Richardson. I'd play Anthony Richardson there. Thank you. Green Screen Man says, hey, Andrew, in a PPR flex, we have 1, Kelsey, Pacheco, DeAndre Hopkins, Thielen, Amari Cooper. Also, if the weather in Carolina is bad, do I bench Lamb and Thielen? Then if I do, should I play instead of Lamb? I mean, look, okay, so let's say, for example, it is a horrible weather concern tomorrow, which, again, we're hoping is not going to be the case. But in the event in which it was to occur, at that point, you would just throw in Amari Cooper for him. That's what you would do. Thank you. All right, WB guy sends in a question. Says, half PPR, JT, DJ Moore, or Neighbors? It probably ends up being JT and a half PPR pretty comfortably. DJ Moore will be second. Neighbors will be third. B for Work says, hey, Andrew, Cook or Brian Robinson in the flex? I would play Brian Robinson there. Thank you. Christian sends in a question. Says, full PPR, JT or Ramondre? I'd rather play JT there. Maybe McCormick? I mean, again, you could. Again, if McCormick falls into the end zone, it could very easily be of more value in comparison to those alternative options. Myers or Waddle? I'd rather play Waddle. Jiggle Billy sends out a follow-up. Says, drop Vikings defense to pick up the Lions for next week. I have the Ravens defense for this week. Lions, if I'm not mistaken, they play against the Chicago Bears next week, correct? Do I want to be playing? The thing about the Lions is they always have, for some reason, they have like a mental block against the, what's it called? The Bears, to the point to where it's been quite detrimental as of late. Am I picking? No, I wouldn't. I don't know if I want to start the Lions defense against the Bears at the Bear Stadium in the weather conditions. No, I wouldn't. I'd go after like the Packers defense for next week. Okay, let's see here. Prada in the chat says Zach Charbonnet or David Montgomery at running back. I'd much rather have Zach Charbonnet as my starter. Also, Baker, Kyler, or Tua. Quarterback, default, 4-point per passing touchdown. I'd play Tua there. Thank you. A in the chat says, hey guys, pick a roster. PPR, Tua, Achane, Jamar, Evans, McBride, or Lamar, Charbonnet, Mixon, AJ Brown, Ferguson. All right, let me look at this across the board really quickly. Yeah. So, I think they're relatively balanced. I would say that the advantage for... Interesting. The way that it's been constructed, one of these teams have... So here's the issue that I have in this circumstance here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Interesting. I'd rather have the team with 2 running backs. Give me the Lamar, Charbonnet, Mixon side of that overall conversation. Thank you. Miguel Garcia sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Sun God makes me nervous with the offense. Would you start T. Higgins, Jacoby Myers, Adam Thielen, or Jordan Addison instead? No, I wouldn't. Again, there are players very similar to the quarterbacks I just mentioned that are auto starts. I think, Amon-Ra St. Brown has to be a guy that if he's on your roster, unless he's injured, he's in your lineup. Richardson over Caleb? No, I would not play Richardson over Caleb. I still trust in Caleb tomorrow against Minnesota's defense. All right, let's see here. We took care of that. We took care of that. Craig says DK or Brees. Depends on scoring format. If we're talking about a full PPR, I'll just take DK there. If it's a half or standard, I'll just take with I'll stick with Brees Hall. Thank you. Kincaid, Calcaterra, or Smart. I'd go with Smart there. Jason Sanders or Will Reichard. I'd rather probably. Well, let me check my rankings right now. I have them relatively closely ranked. I would still lean in the direction of Will Reichard there. How has Jason Sanders been as of late? I know he's been pretty solid in terms of since Tua has returned. Yeah, he's been really good. Sheesh. They kicked 4 field goals last week. That is absolutely insane. Scratch this. Let's just, considering it's just play Jason Sanders at this point. Dude, he has been 9+ fantasy points in 6 of the last 7 games. Yeah, let's just go Jason Sanders. That is crazy. Josh Downs or Jaylen Warren. I would rather play Josh Downs in a full PPR. Thank you. DK, Brees, or Tracy, pick one. Again, it's dependent on scoring format. Process follow-up. Should I bench Neighbors or Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, and Cortland Sutton? I mean, the order at which I have all those guys ranked, Prod, Nico Collins is 1, Cortland Sutton is 2, Devontae Adams is 3, Neighbors is the 4th guy in that list, so he would not start over any of those alternatives. Art says, afternoon, Andrew. TJ Hawkins in a tight end or Smith? Again, I'd rather still play Jonnu Smith there. I think both are fantastic options, but Jonnu Smith has been more consistent over the course of the last couple weeks here. And then it says quarterback Hurts or Herbert. I'd rather play Hurts. Thank you. Jerry Stacks 510 says, what up, Andrew? In a half PPR, I need 2 out of 4. Bigsby, Odunze, Dobbs, Pittman. Of those available, I would play Dobbs and Pittman, honestly. Jimmy says, in a non-PPR, Charbonnet, Cook, Adams, McLaurin, Flowers, pick 3. I'd play Charbonnet 1, McLaurin 2, Adams 3. Thank you. James Newton sends in a question. Thank you, James. It says, Tank Bigsby, Elijah Moore, or Quentin Johnson in a full PPR. If the weather is solid tomorrow in Cleveland, Elijah Moore is number 1. In the event in which the weather is not great, you would pivot to playing Quentin Johnston 2, and then Tank Bigsby is the number 3. Thank you. Coral Khan sends in a question. Says, full PPR, Mooney or Marvin Harrison? I would rather play Darnell Mooney this week. Thank you. Frosty says, Jennings manager, and I'm up against it. I need a big game. Do I roll out Murray, Winston, or Herbert in a 5-point per passing touchdown? Jeez, that is not an easy one. I don't think the extra point per touchdown makes a huge difference. I still stick with Murray there. Kyle sends in a question. Says, hi, Andrew. I need 1 flex and a half PPR. Kamara, Wilson, or Judy? Under the assumption that the weather in Cleveland's solid, I'd play Judy. Otherwise, I'm playing Kamara. Thank you. Frenzy 40K says, Denver, Jets, or Bengals defense? I'd have it currently in the order of Jets, Broncos, Bengals. So Jets will be my number 1 defense against Mac Jones this week. Thank you. Appreciate it. Twisted Folk says, any big concerns about Bowers and Mayer appearing and the possibility of Ritter? I mean, look, as of right now, the biggest concern I have with Bowers concerning Mayer is, again, purely just a matter of how many opportunities is Mayer going to get. If they're going to quadruple coverage, send all the players in the direction of Jacoby Myers and, of course, Brock Bowers, then so be it. That's what the defense is going to accomplish, and it'll open up opportunities for Trey Tucker and, of course, Michael Mayer. But over the course of the season, again, even when teams have tried to stop Brock Bowers, they've failed more often than not. So I would hope that the usage of Mayer and the threat of that could be something that teams are focusing in on and not ignoring outright, to where they're not all putting their attentions on Bowers to double cover him and have safety help over the top. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. But, time will tell. Am I concerned about it? Sure. Especially with Ritter. But again, I've seen Ritter play well in his career. I've seen some solid games. Let's hope that he's learned enough in his year off here as a non-starting option, that he's learned enough to be a consistent enough option to at least get the ball out of his hands quickly enough to get these guys going. Let them make plays after the catch. Joseph in the chat says, full PPR Superflex, Patrick Mahomes or Breece Hall? I'd rather play Patrick Mahomes there, assuming the weather's solid. If the weather is not, if the weather is a problem, at that point I would just pivot off. The Septon says, follow-up. I messed up. Sorry, Andrew. I meant I need 3 in a full PPR between these 3. Okay, so of those available options, if you need 3, Najee, Mooney, Downs, Waddle. I have Adams in the flex. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that Adams is not included within this question. I would play Waddle, Downs, and Mooney in a full PPR. That's the way that I'd go about it. Thank you. If Adams is one of those potential, then Mooney's the odd man out there. Brian Rojas in the chat says, in a half PPR, Ridley or Cooper? As of right now, I'd probably play Ridley there. Jay McLaughlin says, hey, Andrew, in a 10-team 2-flex standard league, my lineup wide receivers are Kupp, Higgins. My running backs are Achane, Brees. My flex options are McLaurin and BTJ. My bench consists of Bucky, Tracy, McCormick, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, Devontae Smith. Any changes? Nope, I would not make any changes. You have it correctly set. Thank you, Jay. All right, let's see here. Reno sends in a question. It says, in a full PPR flex, pick one between Devontae Smith, Devon Vele, Jaden Reed, Rashad Bateman, and Tim Patrick. Okay, between those available options, I'm playing Devontae Smith. Next question, quarterback, Winston or Mayfield? I'd rather play Mayfield. Defense, Jets, Steelers, or Cardinals? I'd play the Jets. Thank you. Akshay sends in a question. Akshay says, I'm leaning towards Herbert over Kyler and GD5 cuz of game script. Listen, to each their own. I couldn't do it myself. I'd have to play Jaden Daniels there. So again, best of luck. Let's hope for Justin Herbert to go for a 300-yard, 3-touchdown day. But if it's me, I'm playing I'm playing Jaden Daniels there 10 times out of 10. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Shubham Sony says, call me Bam Bam. Okay, Bam Bam, what's up? Says, pick 2 for PPR. Jonnu, Mooney, Kelsey. Yeah, I will take Jonnu and Kelsey there. Thank you. Anthony sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, in a full PPR start 2, Drake London, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins. Burrow's my quarterback. As of right now, Tyreek Hill and T. Higgins are the two that I'd roll with. Thank you. Scott sends in a question. Says PPR pick 1, BTJ or Ridley. I'll take BTJ there. Excuse me. And another league, Amon-Ra or AJ Brown. Depends on the scoring format. I'd probably lean towards, if it's a standard league 0 points per reception, just give me AJ Brown. If it's a half PPR right now, give me AJ Brown. If it's a full PPR, I'd probably go Amon-Ra. Thank you. Luke C sends in a question. Luke, thank you very much. Luke says, question 1, week 16 defense, Vegas or Tampa? All right, let me look at week 16 schedule. Vegas or Tampa? All right, so Tampa plays against Dallas and Vegas plays against the Jaguars. I would rather play the Vegas defense. Next question, week 17 defense, Vegas or Tennessee? I would probably still stick with Vegas there and play them against the Saints, assuming the Saints offense is not capable of much. If by the time we get there and the Saints offense has done something of the sort, then you could pivot to playing Tennessee. But for right now, I couldn't objectively tell you. I would just stick with Vegas in both scenarios. Third question, PPR rank, DJ Moore, BTJ, Garrett Wilson, Waddle, and Thielen. Okay, cool. Of the available options there, I go DJ Moore 1. I would go Garrett Wilson 2. I'd go Thielen 3, Waddle 4, BTJ 5. Thank you. DD sends in a question. Thank you, DD. Says that a 0.25 PPR with bonuses for 100-plus yards, who do I start? 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. We have Joe Mixon, Bucky Irving, DeAndre Swift, Rashad White, Braylon Allen, Sincere McCormick, Devontae Smith, Jaden Reed, McLaurin, Flowers, and Downs. Cool. Very simply, the way that I would go about this, I'm going Mixon and Rashad White as your 2 starting running backs. As your 2 starting wide receivers, I'm going McLaurin and Flowers. As your flex, I'm going Josh Downs alongside of probably McCormick. Thank you. We had a question from Andrew1183 who says, hey, Drew, in a full PPR, I need some help with 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex, and a tight end. We have Evans, McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, D-Hop. Okay, so of those available wide receivers, if we're starting 2 of them, Evans and McLaurin are my 1-2 combo. Running back, we have Sharp, Brian Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Bucky Irving. Cool. Charbonnet and Brian Robinson are my 1-2 running backs. In the flex position, I am probably playing... I would probably end up playing Jonathan Taylor within your flex. And that's the way that I'd go about it. If you were worried about Jonathan Taylor, the only alternative to potentially not rolling him out there would be to roll Garrett Wilson in his place in the flex. But as of right now, I feel relatively confident with the combination of Charbonnet, Brian Robinson, Evans, McLaurin, and Taylor. As for tight end, it says Ertz or Ferguson. I'll take Ertz there. Thank you. All right, we had Pipe Down who sent in a question. Thank you, Pipe Down. It says pick 2 in a full PPR Superflex. Jacoby Myers, Breece Hall, Levis, Rush, Judy, Sutton. Okay. Many of options here, many of quarterbacks. even with the quarterback situation here, if it's my team, I would like to play Judy and Sutton in a full PPR scenario over Levis and Rush. Again, weather very much so impacting Judy's stance, but as long as the weather is solid, Judy and Sutton are my two plays there. In the event in which Judy has a weather concern of drastic proportions, I would then at that point pivot to just playing Levis alongside of Sutton. Thank you. Next question says separate PPR question, Pop Douglas or Elijah Moore or Pitts? Interesting. If the weather in Cleveland's solid, I'll take Elijah Moore. In the event in which it is not, I will play Kyle Pitts there. Thank you. Sam sends in a question. Sam, thank you very much. Let's see if I can find your question in the live chat. Sam says, good afternoon, Andrew. As my favorite spider shirt wearing fantasy... Yeah, thank you. I need some... Okay, listen, the spider shirts, I got them at Costco. They were at a very good price, and they are my stream shirt. Very comfortable, loose fit, no questions. Good to go, okay? You guys know me. I will wear one singular shirt or one very singular type shirt every single... I could do it for a whole season if I wanted to. A couple seasons ago, I bought like 8 of one Nike shirt, and I just wore them on rotation every day, one. Anyway, continuing on. I need some of your wisdom in a half PPR, JMO, Cook, or Wilson. Separately, I need streaming tight ends, Smart, Schultz, or Komet. I will take Smart amongst all the tight ends. And between JMO, Cook, and Wilson in a half PPR, I probably end up playing Garrett Wilson there. Thank you. We Buy Home sends in a question, says, in a non-PPR, London or Shakir? Between the two of them, I'd play London. Rashad White or Pollard, I'd play Rashad White. Thank you. Luke C sends in a follow-up, says, PPR flex, Tracy, Pacheco, Thielen, BTJ. Of those available, again, in a PPR, Thielen is the number 1. BTJ is the number 2. Tracy's 3, and Pacheco is 4. Thank you. C. Harles sends in a question, says, PPR, pick 4 between Mooney, Najee, Coop, Pacheco, Tracy, Ridley. Mooney, Najee, Coop, Pacheco, Tracy, Ridley. Okay, so of those available, if I'm picking 4 in a full PPR, Mooney, Tracy, Ridley, and probably, oh man, this is going to be a tough one. Mooney, Tracy, Ridley, and probably going to roll with Coop. Am I going to roll with Coop? Jeez, that's actually tough. Nah, let's just play it safe. Let's go Mooney, Tracy, Ridley, and Najee. Thank you. Sweezy sends in a question. Says start 3 wide receivers, 2 flex. We have, geez, you got a lot of options here, huh? Judy, JSN, Devontae Adams, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Ladd McConkey. Jeez, brother, that is... Okay, again, there are so many contingency parts of this entire conversation because, again, Judy is very much so weather dependent. Otherwise, Judy does play alongside of T. Higgins and probably Devontae Adams as your 3 wide receivers. And then within your flex position, you just roll with most likely Ladd McConkey and JT. Frosty says, I have like 5 of the same black t-shirt. Yeah, you gotta have. I mean, listen, brother. Bam Bam, what's up? So, you changed your name to Bam Bam? Is that what happened? PPR, it says gamble with Bucky or stay with Warren. I would probably in a full PPR stay with Warren there. Joseph in the chat says, where do you have Breece Hall ranked? Do you think the other backs will take away Breece's touches? I do think that they're going to take away some of his touches to the extent to where, as it currently stands, look, okay, so if we were going to kind of utilize Tuesday's running back rankings as a, I guess like a benchmark as to where we would potentially rank him, I would say that I have him lower than Tony Pollard, but higher than Najee Harris. So just behind Ramondre, probably. That's the way that I go about it with him this week. Thank you. Akshay sends in a follow-up, says, can I possibly win in a full PPR? My team is JD5, Bijan, Jacobs, Waddle, Cup, Hawkinson. Yes. JSN, Lutz. Okay, cool. Josh Allen, Chase Brown, Shad White, Higgins, DJ Moore. Look, you could absolutely win. It's not out of the realm of possibility, even with a 0-point performance from Cup. Again, you got to think about it this way. He has a guy on his team by the name of T. Higgins who disappeared last week, right? DJ Moore disappeared last week. McBride was a completely lesser option. There's always a possibility that going into a given week, any player could disappear, right? Any player could go off in the same sense. But in this circumstance, I'm not giving up in your case. You have a lot of stud players. You just need touchdowns. You need JD5 to go for 3. You need Bijan and Jacobs to hopefully go for 1 minimum, if not 2 touchdowns. And you need the rest of your gang to just kind of get the yardage and receptions they need to still, stay afloat. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you can win that. Okay, guys, so we took care of that. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to answer a couple more questions, and then we're going to be heading out. I'll be back again tomorrow, starting at 7 a.m. PST. I do appreciate y'all coming through today. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, but I'm going to continue to answer questions for the next 5-10 minutes here, and then we'll be heading out. Again, tomorrow morning, we'll have updated rankings for my top 36 running backs, wide receivers, top 16 quarterbacks, tight ends, top 12 kickers, and defenses over the course of tomorrow's live stream. Of course, we will be establishing what the weather concerns really do look like and whether they are concerns or just fear-mongering. Again, we'll keep an eye on that as we approach Sunday throughout that live stream, and we'll be good to go. Hopefully, we'll see you guys there. If not, again, you guys can find my all-encompassing rankings via signing up Underdog. Again, if you sign up today using code Andrew, make that first-time deposit minimum of $10, you will get those rankings good to go tomorrow morning. My email directly to yours, or you could always check out the Patreon, in which, of course, you can find the rankings available there. Thank you. Okay, so we had a question from Alpha, who says, Lad or Malik in a full PPR? I will take Lad there. Alan Tran says, Zach Ertz, Elijah Moore in a full PPR. I'd probably just go with Zach Ertz there to avoid any weather concerns. Denver or Arizona defense? I would take Denver's defense there. Kyle Pick says, early kicker rankings, I need to pivot from Butker. If you're going to pivot from Butker, look towards players such as Fairbairn, Bates, Sanders, Reichard, Lutz, Bass, Dicker, McLaughlin, Boswell, Aubrey. Thank you. C-Rod says, in a full PPR for my running back slot, if Breece Hall can't go, who should I play, Isaiah Davis or Jalen Moore? In the event in which Breece Hall does not play tomorrow, Isaiah Davis would start for you. Gabriel Martin says, hey, Andrew, in the flex, in a full PPR, between Rashad White, DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Thielen. Of those available, if there's no Bucky Irving tomorrow, it's 100% Rashad White. If Bucky Irving plays, I just go DJ Moore. Thank you. Sweezy says, is it hard to sit JSN in a possible shootout? Yes, I would say that it's difficult to start him, but it depends on what the alternative options are. Trader3 says, hey, Andrew, pick one in the flex. Mooney, Pacheco, or Thielen? Thanks in advance. I mean, it depends on scoring format purely. Until I know your scoring format, I really can't even answer it. Primetime, Dime, 818 says, hey, Andrew, are you rolling with Stone Smart even if Njoku is available? If Njoku is available, I'm playing Njoku. Yeah, I'm playing Njoku if he's available. Thank you. Tony Lopez says, what can we expect from Tracy tomorrow, full PPR with DeVito? I would expect 5 receptions and maybe like 30-plus receiving yards, minimum. And then whatever rushing opportunities that he's given. If they at any point move the ball down the field and he's given a rushing opportunity near the goal line, consider yourself lucky, because really that should not be implicated against that Baltimore run-stop defense. But again, when you cannot run the ball and you're down 30 points, you're going to have to throw the ball. And considering the offensive line play of the Giants, it'll probably be a lot of checkdowns in the direction of Tracy. I would anticipate tomorrow he sets his career high for receptions in a single game. Pierre sends in a follow-up, says, non-PPR, I need one wide receiver, DJ Moore, Shakir, or Thielen. Of those 3, the order at which I would go about it in a non-PPR would be DJ Moore number 1, Shakir 2, Thielen 3. Thank you. Jose Rodriguez says, in a 1 wide receiver, 1 flex, 1 running back, Lamb, Evans, AJ Brown, Connor, Dowdle, Charbonnet. Charbonnet's your running back. Connor's your flex. AJ Brown is your wide receiver. Thank you. Gerardo says, por favor, Andrew. Standard. Choose 2. Waddle, Reed, Smith, Thielen, Elijah Moore. Cool. Waddle and Thielen are my 1-2. Njoku or Kraft? Even if Njoku's healthy, I'd still play Kraft there tomorrow. At that point, I would pivot to just playing Kraft. Be safe. Especially considering they take on Seattle, who couldn't stop Trey McBride for their life. 26 bands up says Myers or Thielen in a full PPR. Dunze or Allen are available. Yeah, I'd still play Thielen there of the group, assuming, again, the weather's going to be solid tomorrow. Ladd or Jacoby, I'd play Ladd. Chris Bentley says Bryce versus Dallas, Russ, Gino, or Ritter versus Atlanta. I'll take Gino there above the all. Yeah, above all of them. Esteban says Waddle or Wilson in a half PPR. I still lean towards Garrett Wilson, but it's going to be close by tomorrow's rankings. They'll probably be back-to-back, if I'm going to be honest. Trader 3 says full PPR, flex, pick 1, Mooney, Pacheco, Thielen. In a full PPR, I'll take Thielen. Thank you. Mooney will be second, Pacheco will be third. Baby Yoda says full PPR. I need a RB2. Sorry, I need For my RB2, Rico Dowdle or JT? I play Rico Dowdle tomorrow. Thank you. Stone Broke says, would you start Njoku over Aaron Jones in the flex? Absolutely not. No way. Especially with the hamstring concerns, I would not do that. Tim Compton says, Waddle or Neighbors and Pacheco or Tracy in a full PPR. I will play Tracy over Pacheco and I will play Waddle over Neighbors. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys. We had Randy Hale in the chat, says full PPR in a 0.3 PPC, point per carry league. I need one running back. Okay, so what are your options, Randy? Randy says full PPR. Need one running back, two wide receivers, and one flex. We have Brees, Charbonnet, Nico, Garrett, Wilson, and Judy. Okay, so of those available options, Charbonnet has to start as your starting running back. Nico Collins is your wide receiver 1, and Judy is your wide receiver 2. And if Brees Hall is active tomorrow, I would play him as your flex. In the event in which he's inactive, you just play Garrett Wilson there, and the decision is made for you. Thank you. Terry says full PPR, Njoku or Hunter Henry. In the event in which Njoku is still active tomorrow, I'm still going to play Hunter Henry. I am not 100% convinced that Njoku will be healthy tomorrow to extent to where he could play the full game without any re-injury risk, especially in the rain. If anything, he tweaks the wrong way because he slips, I mean, we're cooked. Daniel Gonzalez says full PPR, pick one. JT, BTJ, or Myers. In a full PPR, I am still going to play Jonathan Taylor there. Thank you. But if you want to play it safe, if you just want the automatic points, you don't want to take any risk, you just play BTJ there. Because again, in a full PPR, if you're just trying to get your 14 points, 7 catches, 70 yards, that's how you accomplish it. If you're looking for upside, it's JT. All right, guys. Ken is going to probably be the last question here. Ken says, if Bucky is out, do I play Kincaid, Shepard, or Leggett? In the event in which... Okay, so if this is the scenario, I would play Leggett there. Thank you. All right, guys. That'll be it. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. PST. If you guys have any questions, I'll be answering them over the course of tomorrow's live stream. Much love. Have a great rest of your Saturday. I am queuing the wonderful Double Helix. Hope you guys have a good one. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace. Frosty, I'm thinking you probably just played Kamara alongside of Shakir there. if the weather concerns in that Thielen situation and Ritter with Myers, I think I'm just going to play Kamara and Shakir. Just play my studs. Not really worry about anything else in that scenario. All right, guys. Anyway, peace.